Commoning Possibilities actually started in this office about 3 years ago, where the staff from St. Columb's Park House came down on a very cold November day to make connections between the forest and the park.
Today is about connection, it's about commoning, it's about conversation, and it's about community. And two kind of thoughts I was having is let's create the conditions where everyone will flourish. So how do we create the conditions in this room today so that we all can flourish?
Ideas flowed, people sparked, there was a bit of electricity in the air. We went for a walk in the forest and we all felt we need to grow something from these sparks. So that was, the beginning of the project. The project has changed over the last 2 years. Originally, the project was around exploring how if we noticed and valued and stopped to notice and value both spaces, the park and the forest, what that could lead to in terms of ideas and creativity and community building. Ultimately, it was also about the Forest Service, the council, statutory agencies, recognizing that people need to be around the table in co-stewarding each space. And that great expression, if you're not on the table, you might be on the menu. Beginning, we had a pot of £5,000 in each area. And participatory budgeting was a process we had decided that would open up the conversation on commoning. St. Columb's Park House raised that 5,000 to 7,500, and then we were a little bit luckier and we were able to put that into a pot of 10,000 in Garva. Next step was starting to tell people about the opportunities of the £10,000. Commoning Possibilities was launched in Garva at the Stone Soup event. Stone Soup has been an event we have held every year for the last 3 or 4 years based on the old story that is told across the world in different cultures of an elderly person coming into town, needing some food, knocking on all the doors. No one has anything to give her, and so she sets up camp in the local park, in the Cornerstone Park in Garva, puts on a pot of water, and then with great ceremony takes something out from under her very ragged cloak and puts it into the pot. The curtains twitch and people start to peer out of their doors, and finally one person comes up and says, "What are you doing?" And she's saying, "I'm making the most delicious soup in the world." And she says, and they look inside the pot and they say, there's just a stone there. And she says, "Yes, absolutely delicious, but it could do with a little old carrot." And the person remembers they have a little old carrot. And the story for us just brought to life what commoning is. That if we all have something tiny, however much we don't notice it, that we can bring and start to look after the collectively what we share in common. So we had the Stone Soup event, and it was about encouraging ideas and bids that people would love to see and to make happen that would benefit the forest and or the community.
In this hunt today in St. Columb's Park, I was really curious about how to connect people to nature in a different way, that we can do a little treasure hunt that would reconnect people with nature. For me, it's validating the community. Like these groups, especially this morning, are really important to us. And I suppose for those groups that we work quite closely with, the more time that we can have conscious engagement together, the more that we get back from each other and we learn more from them about what is that's important about the space.
I love her very much.
You love the park very much.
We launched the Commoning Possibilities and started to get people interested and energized about putting ideas and bids in to Commoning Possibilities. So my hit list was literally 5 pages of names and groups and meeting people to talk to them about Commoning Possibilities. Then we had an evening where we brought people together to begin understanding that this is a shared conversation and a shared process and starting to bounce ideas off each other. Originally, the idea was that the voting event, which is the core of participatory budgeting, that people come together and make decisions on the priorities they feel the money should focus on. But due to the pandemic, we had to shift our marketplace voting event online. You can vote online on Saturday, the 11th of December. The website will be launched. The 39 bidders have all made a video that will be placed on the website. Watch the videos, and then you can cast your 5 votes on the 5 projects you would like to support. There will also be voter packs that will be sent out through a number of the local primary schools in the kids' school bags. And again, there will be a ballot paper. Fill it in, post it back to the school. There will also be ballot boxes in a number of the local shops, and again, pick up the ballot paper, fill it in, and put it back in the box. There will also be an exhibition in Garva Community Building, where the 39 ideas will be shown, and you will also be able to vote with your ballot paper and post it at the community building. We ended up with 1,000+ voters, both online and physical ballot papers, so there was a great level of participation. The creation of a citizens group, we had the magic 12 individuals from different walks of life in Garva, and they really helped to shape and provide support and coordinate the process over a number of months. And they were part of the count in December, where we counted all the votes that came in. The results of the vote was announced by Richard Holmes, who was Mayor of the Causeway Coast and Glens Council at that time. And it was lovely to see him get almost as if he was like in a normal kind of election count, and standing at the wall and making tallies, and then announcing the results at a table with his chain on. Made it a lovely end to the evening. The winners were announced, and then people were contacted personally, both those who had got enough votes and those who didn't quite get enough votes. Support offered, and then Christmas came. So January time, everything started to get going. We brought together all the bidders in January, at the end of January, whether successful or not, to really send out a message that this is about a community process. So whether you got enough votes to get the money or not, it was about supporting each other and making all projects and bids work if people wanted that to happen. And it was also an opportunity for people to say they needed support, and to start kind of connecting things. And we set up a WhatsApp as well. So the WhatsApp has worked really well in terms of people being able to share, congratulate, celebrate, and ask questions. All of them have been incredible bids, as I said, including the ones that didn't quite get enough votes, because we all supported them to make them happen. The COP26 project was a bid from the 6 primary schools who form part of the Garva Forest Outdoor Learning Partnership. These are Carr Hill Integrated Primary School, St. Patrick's and St. Joseph's Primary School, Garva Primary School, Goran Primary School, St. Columba's Primary School, and Kilray Primary School. Their idea came from the big COP26 climate change conference in Glasgow last year, with climate breakdown being the biggest game we have to play and win. So the bid became COP26, a tournament of actions between the schools and families, and hopefully much more fun than the Glasgow conference. We had a draw in the forest on a snowy January afternoon with a representative from each P6, P7 class drawing their theme out of a big ball officiated by James Mulholland from Garva Youths. The themes were transport, fashion, building, food, energy, and waste. The young people's task was then to become investigative journalists and to research their theme within the context of their school and begin exploring possible solutions. To kick it all off, we had a lovely journalist, Mary Kerr, from the Derry Post, who kindly run sessions in each of the schools about the key tips and traps in being an investigative journalist. Her key advice was always check out the information you are given and make sure you read and listen to different sources. Some of the key findings during the young people's research included finding out how much carbon peat bogs trap, discovering historic and existing hydroelectric power sites, working out that the school might never see its electricity and heating bills, or that a school has little control over the lunchtime menu. We even had a calculation with regards how many plastic milk containers one school went through each year. All the schools then came together for a big COP26 celebration in the forest, where each class created an installation along the path showcasing their key findings, some creative solutions, and of course a quick ball game, because there's nothing that can't be improved without a bit of fun, and it's even more important to have fun when dealing with difficult and complex issues. A beautiful one has been the bid from Casey McIlva. Her bid was to ask for £50 to do a feasibility study, although she didn't call it that, to look at possibly having a handrail walking up to the pyramid in the forest. So the pyramid sits on top of a mound. she had noticed that her granddad was struggling to walk up to the pyramid. So her question was, if her granddad's struggling to walk up, what about everyone else with mobility issues? They can't see the pyramid anymore. So her bid for £50, the council was interested, and the council worked with Casey to explore putting up a wooden handrail, which went up about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And now people with mobility issues can walk up to the pyramid.
Well, thank you all for coming, and I suppose this is the first since we had the whole process before Christmas and the vote. We really wanted an opportunity to bring everybody together. The different ideas that were all submitted. There was 25 put in. What is it we care for in common? What are the possibilities that can emerge from a space like this, and from people very generously giving their time to be part of this process? And especially when we're thinking about this amazing energy of the people who brought forward ideas and the people who are continuing to pursue those ideas. And for me, a big part of it is community building. And community building, it sounds nice, or it's a term, and I suppose over the 18 months that we're sitting on this project, we're really interrogating what does that mean.
Today was just an interesting collaboration of meeting people face to face who have various projects. It was interesting to see where people's ideas were coming from, what they were trying to achieve, and the connections that were then established between people who had different ideas but had synergies. There was a sort of meeting where you got to see all the projects laid out, so it was really interesting to see some of the ideas that people were coming up with. I think it's the value behind the process and the projects are ultimately what's important. It's also interesting that people that didn't get voted into the project are still happy to stay as participants with it, so there's a clear value there.
St Columb's Park House, it is a special place, and you can't quite ever put your finger on what is it. It's this little nugget in St Columb's Park House. Grania has a huge part of the specialness that exists in the house and our energy that comes through. But Grania and all the workers in the house, we have amazing people here. But it's bigger than that. It's the community that's actually making it special. It's the community that's starting to make a new energy, a new feel to it. I'm a park user for 35 plus years, and I've always had an attachment to the grounds, I suppose, of the park, and in recent years certainly with the beauty of St Columb's Park House. So it's been a joy to go through this process with Grania. I'm learning from it, and it's empowering. It's given everybody a voice, and if they come up with an idea, do you know what? Maybe we can do it. Instead of worrying about the hows or the wheres and where the money's coming from, there's just a wee pot there to make things start, and it's exciting, and that's the beauty of common impossibilities.
And then just having the space to have conversations. So that's why jump in or share insights or whatever that is. Today we're on the road and we are going to visit a few people involved with the project. And the nice thing about the project is that we didn't restrict the ideas making or ideas implementation to only St Columb's Park. So quite a few of the ideas have been done outside the park, and quite a lot of the people that are also involved are from other parts of Derry, because it's a park that has different people coming in and out of it. So we're going to visit David, who works for the Conservation Volunteers, and he's also a resident who lives around the park. And Roisin McLaughlin she works for the Northwest Community Network.
I'm David Montgomery. I was invited along to talk about the possibility of and the idea of common land. I'm just a park user, a member of the public who's very keen on opening up public spaces for all the benefits that they provide. The connection with nature, the general health benefits, and the physical activities that we can partake in.
I've only really been introduced to this concept recently, so I have a real interest and I'm intrigued to get involved. Everybody wants to do something and feels that they have so much to give, but they don't have the means to do it, and then it's just using your own actions, and maybe that's what influenced people to come out and do it, because loads of people came along to help with that litter picking event, and I think you're right, that's because it sort of empowered people to do something. It wasn't just about relying on the council or relying on other people to do it.
Nature can take care of itself, so it's up to us to assign ourselves responsibilities. And whilst the local authority, like our council, has the overriding responsibility to maintain green spaces, the true care comes from the people that use it and who are interested in it and who look at it and just find beauty without having to touch it or go there. And then you have the people that go that step further, the likes of Robert and his groups. And there are so many people like Robert who think that I would like to clean this place up, I would like to serve the planet the way it serves me. But they might not know where to go, they might not be confident, they might just need a little bit of encouragement. So the few that are like Robert who actually take the initiative upon themselves and start a conversation about it is the first step, I suppose.
Great, so nice conversations there. Now we'll just move on to the next bit. Let's go. Do you know, for a few different reasons, like, do you know, just because like I think your perspective on it is really important to have included, especially that broad perspective of community.
People have to be at the core of this, do you know what I mean? Or the communities who know what they need the money for or what they need the resources for, and sometimes it's not always about money. I think it's probably one of the most ideal ways of involving community, and they can decide where the money should go, do you know what I mean? So people have to come up with the ideas and then the public get to say, this is where we feel this is the best idea, or this is where we feel the money should be spent. I think we just need to have more conversations about it and share the learning. It's about listening when the community are saying, this is the stuff we need, this is the stuff that works for us, and these are the approaches that works for us. And I think that whole idea of PB and other funders who I suppose maybe put the people more at the core, it's where it's about bringing people together as well. Do you know what I mean? The PB brings the communities together. You know, people come together to say this is our idea, but then people come together to vote and say this is where we think the money should be spent. So I think there's more about that. Of bringing people together and collectively sort of looking at what do we need, how do we need to change this. So that's what I mean, the organisation that I'm in, I think we're in a good position to start those conversations with funders about how we change the way we actually do. And I do think that COVID actually has kind of helped that as well, because the funders were sort of saying, look, here, we know you need this money for different things now, so please just do it. And it broke down a lot of the barriers and the bureaucracy, I think. And there was more of a, it's not that I would say the funders don't trust us, but there was more of a trust there. They sort of said, you know what you're doing, get on with it, there's a pandemic, we need to support people, you do what you have to do to support them. And I think we have to continue that approach and continue the conversations where it's not formal, and there's not barriers and there's not boundaries, which makes it more difficult for communities to get in and do what they want to do.
Gather round all, both great and small, and attention lend to me. I'll sing to you the praises of a house both great and gracious, with welcome and company. And it's in the waterside where the rolling tide of the Foyle lies clear in view. At St. Colum's Park House, where a woman, man and mouse have made a plan they want to share with you.
So the history group at St. Colum's Park House have done an incredible amount of research over the last 3 years, and they've uncovered new history of the house that has never been told. So today was the first time that history was being shared with people in the community. There was also then a bit of storytelling around that, storytelling about the waterside, storytelling around some popular songs, and then we heard some stories from the residents who would have memories of St. Colum's Park, and we're trying to gather up some of those memories as well as part of Common Impossibilities. The event was chaired by Ken McCormick, who is a local historian and who has a great passion and interest for St. Colum's Park House. We had a song by Conor O'Kane, aka Techno Peasant, and he really knitted together the history of the house linked into the work that the centre's doing in the modern day, in today's currently. Then we had Madeline McCulley, who did some storytelling with a bit of music. We had Hazel Filson, and she did more storytelling, and she got a bit of audience engagement going, which was lovely. So she kind of put the microphone back then to the residents and park users and people who would have used the park when they were a lot younger, and she got a wee bit of chat going from then. And then throughout the day we just had George and his merry men from Dungiven. They come all the way down from Dungiven just to kind of soften in between the different speakers and just bring a lovely bit of atmosphere to the day. It was great to see so many faces in the room. It was great to connect with those park users and residents around the park, which is inevitably what we wanted to do. When we were thinking who we wanted to share the history with, we thought, you know what, this first sharing is quite special. So we wanted to share that with the people who were closest to the park. So we had people from Bond Street, from the Fold, from the different streets around the park. And we got to hear a wee bit of their stories too, which just topped it all off.
Cost us dearly, community shines clearly as the antidote to burnout, dread and fear. Thanks for all your kind attention, and now, without pretension, give all yourselves a rousing mighty cheer. Thanks very much.
I found that one to be on the radio all the time.
A hare's corner is a traditional Irish farming practice where the bit of the field at the edge, which perhaps is less fertile or stony, is left to itself and not managed or farmed. And traditionally it became the wild place at the corner of the field for hares, for different wildlife, where the unexpected could grow and change happens. That's in contrast to the managed field. So Commoning Possibilities and many of the bids could be seen as hare's corners, where it's open to change, it's open to new connections and see what might be possible and what could grow. And if we join all the hare's corners together, could be a much bigger change and possibilities. Can't believe we've come to the end of what is a 2.5 journey between the 4 partners. Many of the projects in Garva and St. Colum's Park are coming to an end with a celebration stage where people report back to the voters and celebrate with each other about the bids. And where do we go from here? I think we need to build. I think we need to keep investing in the relationships and the conversations that have started, because we can easily fall back to old ways of doing things, old ways of being with each other. And as we had all our hopes on the pandemic around how we might have noticed things differently, when we came out of lockdown, many of us went back to the old ways. So in terms of Commoning Possibilities, we need to keep investing in that space and those relationships to really bring about a different way of managing our economy and thinking about our well-being and the well-being of the forest and the park. Just really want to thank everyone who's been part of the Commoning Possibilities project. It was a little bit of a risk to get involved in something that was new, that we weren't quite sure where it would end up, to put themselves out in terms of getting people to vote for their ideas, and that takes courage, and it takes time for people who are struggling with just often jobs and getting through the day.